morning children. So today we are going to learn about a new prose lesson. We are not afraid to die if we all be together. Written by Jordan Cook and Alan East. So this story is about a 37-year-old businessman who is the narrator of the story. And he has a wife named Mary and two children, Jonathan and Susan. And he and his wife both they dreamt of a voyage around the world on their ship Wavewalker, which is very big, 23 meter long and 30-ton wooden hull, and its name is Wavewalker. So the whole family started sailing from their place, Plymouth, England. And the beginning phase of their journey was very pleasant. It was very pleasant. And while heading east along with their newly hired crewman, strong waves hit them and their survival became a question. So this story tells about how they fought each day and survived till the end. So before going on the text, we'll see a small introduction about the authors. So here the prose lesson, we are not afraid to die if we all be together. It's a prose lesson. It was written by Jordan Cook and Alan East. So Jordan Cook, he was born on December 3rd, 1978 in Toronto. And he is a two-time Canadian Olympic sailor and he sails for Royal Canadian Yacht Club. And he is the son of Stephen Cook and Linda Cook. He had a great interest in writing stories too. And Alan East, he was born on 23rd January 1969 and he was admitted to the role of solicitors in 2003 and has gained experience as a manager and a legal trainer over there. So in 2004, he co-founded and managed a legal practice specializing in criminal litigation and prison law, gaining higher rights of audience in criminal proceedings and working as a duty solicitor. So he is also a co-founder of a multi-academy trust, Central Academies Trust, which has as its aim improving standards in secondary education. So this is all about the authors Jordan Cook and Alan East, and now we'll move on to the text. In July 1976, my wife Mary, son Jonathan, 6, daughter Susan, 7, and I set sail from Plymouth, England to duplicate the world voyage made 200 years earlier by Captain James Cook. For the longest time, Mary and I, a 37-year-old businessman, had dreamt of sailing in the wake of the famous explorer, and for the past 16 years, we had spent all our leisure time honing our seafaring skills in British waters. Our boat Wavewalker, a 23-meter, 30-ton wooden-hulled beauty, had been professionally built, and we had spent months fitting it out and testing it in the roughest weather we could find. So here, voyage means a long journey by sea or space, and leisure means free time. Honing means sharpening, improving an object, and seafaring means regularly traveling by sea. And honing our seafaring skills, improving the skills required to travel by sea. And wooden hull means a watertight body of a ship. So here the narrator, he is a 37-old businessman. He along with his wife Mary and two children, Jonathan, he is of 6 years old, and Susan, she is 7 years old. They went on a voyage on their ship in July 1976. So they started from Plymouth, England, and they wanted to complete the sea trip around the world just like the one that had been completed 200 years ago by the famous Captain James Cook. So here the narrator and his wife, they spent 16 years improving their seafaring skills. So seafaring skills mean regularly they were traveling by the sea. And they got a ship built professionally, a 23-meter long, 30-ton heavy wooden hull called a Wavewalker. So the ship's name was Wavewalker. And they took several months to test it in the roughest of the weathers. The first leg of our planned 3-year, 105,000 kilometer journey passed pleasantly as we sailed down the west coast of Africa to Cape Town. There, before heading east, we took on two crewmen, American Larry Vigil and Swiss Herb Sigler, to help us tackle one of the world's roughest seas, the southern Indian Ocean. On our second day out to Cape Town, we began to encounter strong gales. For the next few weeks, they blew continuously. Gales did not worry me, but the size of the waves was alarming, up to 15 meters, as high as our mainmast. So here gales means a very strong wind, and mast means a tall upright structure on a boat or a ship. So here in the beginning of the 3-year long journey of 1,05,000 kilometers, it passed very pleasantly, and they sailed down to the west coast of Africa to Cape Town. And now the narrator, he hired 2 crewmen before heading towards the east to tackle down the roughest weather, the roughest sea, the South Indian Ocean. Their names were Larry Vigil, an American, he was American, and Herb Segler, he was a Swiss person. On the second day in Cape Town, they encountered a strong wind which continued for several weeks. A strong wind was not a problem at that time, but 15-meter high waves which were height of mist, that was worried the narrator. December 25 found us 3,500 kilometers east of Cape Town. Despite atrocious weather, we had a wonderful holiday complete with the Christmas tree. New Year's Day saw no improvement in the weather, but we reasoned that it had to change soon. And it did change for the worse. At dawn on January 2nd, the waves were gigantic. We were sailing with only a small storm, jib, and were still making 8 knots. As the ship rose to the top of each wave, we could see enormous seas rolling towards us, and the screaming of the wind and spray was painful to the ears. To slow the boat down, we dropped the storm jib and lashed a heavy mooring rope in a loop across the stern. Then we lashed everything, went through our life raft drill, attached lifelines, donned oilskins and life jackets, and waited. So here in this paragraph, there are so many hard words. Atrocious means bad, of a very poor quality. Gigantic means huge, of a big size. Jib means a triangular staysail set forward the mast in the ship. And knots means a unit of speed equal to 1 mile per hour. Usually used especially of ships, aircraft or winds. And enormous means a very large size. Lash means to hit with a lot of force. And mooring means the ropes, chains or anchors by or to which a boat, ship or buoy is moored. And loop means a shape produced that bends round and crosses. And stern means the back part of the ship or a boat. And don means put on, wore. And oilskins means heavy cotton cloth waterproofed with oil. So here in this paragraph, on December 25, a Christmas day, they travelled around 3,500 kilometers east of Cape Town, and they celebrated their Christmas together with the family despite the bad weather. And the weather, it remained the same till New Year's Day, but they hoped for it to change soon. So the weather conditions got worsened and worsened. On the early morning of January 2nd, the waves were very huge. So it was almost a huge destroyal thing, and they were sailing with a small storm jib. Jib is a triangular staysail set forward the mast in a ship. So at a speed of 8 knots. And when the ship was sailing with the huge waves, they could see the huge sea in front of them. So the noise of the waves, the strong winds, it was very painful for their ears. And they dropped the storm jib to slow down the ship, and they hit a heavy mooring rope across the back part of the ship in a loop. So they lashed everything with double force, and they put on their oilskins and life jackets, attached lifelines, and went through life raft drills, and they waited for safety. The first indication of impending disaster came at about 6 p.m. with an ominous silence. The wind dropped and the sky immediately grew dark. Then came a growing roar, and an enormous cloud towered aft of the ship. With horror, I realized that it was not a cloud, but a wave like no other I had ever seen. It appeared perfectly vertical and almost twice the height of the other waves, with a frightful breaking crest. So here impending means about to happen. Ominous silence means unpleasant or threatening silence. Aft means near the stern of the ship, and frightful means very unpleasant or shocking. Crest means reach the top of a wave. So in this paragraph, around 6 p.m. an unpleasant silence it rolled over, and it was an indication of a disaster which was about to happen, and the wind suddenly dropped and the sky was darker with heavy clouds, and a huge clouds was coming towards the stern of the ship, and but later the narrator he realized that it was a huge wave. So the wave was perfectly vertical and it was twice the height of the previous waves. It was too big. It was twice the big of the previous waves. And they saw the top of the wave looking unpleasant due to its height. So it was very frightful scene to see. The roar increased to a thunder at the stern move of the face of the wave, and for a moment I thought we might ride over it. But then a tremendous explosion shook the deck, and a torrent of green and white water broke over the ship. My head smashed into the wheel, and I was aware of flying overboard and sinking below the waves. I accepted my approaching death, and as I was losing consciousness, I felt quite peaceful. So here, tremendous means a very great in amount. Shook means past tense of shake, vibrating. And deck means the floor of a ship. Torrent means a fast moving stream of water, and smashed means shattered or violently broken. So here the thunder it got increased, and the wave it started moving up, and they thought that it would not do any damage, but a huge explosion vibrated the deck of the ship. So a strong moving stream of green and white water it broke over the ship, and the narrator's head it got smashed in the wheel of the ship. So he flew overboard and he sunk below the waves. So he accepted that his death was approaching, and he started losing consciousness. So, and at that time he felt quite peaceful. Unexpectedly, my head popped out of the water. A few meters away, Waywalker was near capsizing, her mast almost horizontal. Then a wave hurled her upright. My lifeline jerked taut. I grabbed the guard rails and sailed through the air into Waywalker's main boom. Subsequent waves tossed me around the deck like a rag doll. My left ribs cracked, my mouth filled with blood and broken teeth. Somehow I found the wheel, lined up the stern for the next wave and hung on. Water everywhere. I could feel that the ship had water below, but I dared not abandon the wheel to investigate. Suddenly the front hatch was thrown open and Mary appeared. "We are sinking," she screamed. "The decks are smashed. We are full of water. Take the wheel," I shouted as I scrambled for the hatch. Here capsizing means to be overturned in the water, and hurled means throw with a great force. Taut means stretched or pulled tightly. Boom means pole that controls the ankle and shape of the snail, and scramble means climb, claw one's way. Hatch means a door. Here the narrator's head it popped out of the water, and the ship was about to overturn. But a wave turned her upright, and his lifeline jacket was stretched, and he grabbed the guardrails and sailed to the ship's main pole. So now the waves it tossed him around the deck, and he was tossing here and there, and he was injured very badly, as his left ribs were cracked and his mouth was filled with blood, and he was having a broken tooth. And once he found the wheel, he lined the stern for the next wave, and he waited there. And there was water everywhere, and the narrator he could feel water below the ship, but he didn't leave the wheel alone. And suddenly the front door was opened, and his wife Mary, she came there, and she was screaming that they were sinking, and she said that the decks are smashed and we are full of water. And she started screaming, and she was screaming continuously. So the narrator he handed her the wheel, and he climbed towards the door. Larry and Herb were pumping like madmen. Broken timbers hung at the crazy ankles. The whole starboard side bulged inwards. Clothes, crockery, charts, tins, and toys sloshed about in deep water. I half swam, half crawled into the children's cabin. "Are you all right?" I asked. "Yes," they answered from the upper bunk. "But my head hurts a bit," said Sue, pointing to a big bump above her eyes. I had no time to worry about the bumped heads. After finding a hammer, screws, and canvas, I struggled back on the deck. With the starboard side bash open, we were taking water with each wave that broke over us. If I couldn't make some repairs, we would surely sink. So here timbers means wood board used in building of a ship, And starboard means side of a ship which is on the right side when no one is facing forward. And bulge means swell. And sloshed means move toward liquid with a splashing sound. Bashed means strike hard or hit. So here the crewmen, Larry and Herb, they were pumping the water very fast like a madman, and the timbers of the ship were broken and they were hanging upside down badly, very badly. So the starboard of the ship had sunk already, and clothes, crockery, charts, tins, choice, everything was roaming around here and there in deep water. So the narrator, he swam, he crawled to the children's cabin because he was worried, and he asked the children whether they were all right. And the children replied yes, but Sue, his daughter, she complained about a big swelling on her head. And the narrator, he didn't pay much attention to it because they were alive, and his major concern was to save them. So the narrator, he found immediately he found screws, hammer, canvas, whatever he had in his hands, and he went back to the deck. So the broken starboard side was letting so much of water inside the ship. So if the narrator, if he couldn't fix the problem, they would all sink in the sea. We'll see the rest of the lines in our next class. Until then, stay safe and have a great day. Thank you so much for listening.